good evening. We're glad to have you all with us. We are recording this and we will post it so that you can send your friends to look at it, listen to it, and you can go back and enjoy it. Listen to it. Sometimes it helps to hear a poem several times. It's going to be, I hope, a relaxed evening, and we should all sit back and enjoy it. This Poems Around Town is what we put together for the second year. Last year we did it and thought it was a good idea during the time of COVID to see how people were expressing themselves, and we made a collection and we posted them. We went around town and got virtually everybody we asked was delighted to have poems in their windows, which was great. And so we decided to try it again, and you all and quite a few others sent us poems. We ended up with nearly 100. Actually, it was more than 100, I think, when we got all finished. And I printed them up so that they could go in the windows. And again, we probably could have put more in the windows. There were lots of people who wanted to have some poems in their windows. There's the right action. And I'm blanking, Barb. What's your operation? The
Time to Write.
Time to Write, and the Literary Festival are all sponsors of this and have encouraged people to join us. We had great support from the Brattleboro, not coming up with the expression, but the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance thing, that encouraging people to join us. And so I consider it to be quite a success, and I've really enjoyed going around and seeing them. And I hope that you have, particularly on the places where your poem is posted, I hope you've gone in and thanked the shopkeeper or the restaurant owner. I think that really, it's a nice thing to do, because it's been very nice of them to do it. Let's see. I guess I will.
Andy, would you like to introduce the Right Action Board members who are here?
Oh, yes.
And they can unmute themselves and say hi.
Sure. Why don't you start, Barb?
I'm not on the board.
Oh, well, you've been helping with it. Barb Morrison's been helping with a lot of our projects. And Arlene Disler is one of the founders, and she's the president of our little board. And she's been main inspiration for this whole project. Would you like to say something brief? No, she'd like me to say it.
It's great to see everyone, and I look forward to hearing you all.
And Tony Ortner, I don't see her here, but I know she wanted to be here. She's also on the board and has been active with us for a long time, longer than I have. And I should say that Tom Regal has been, he's a board member emeritus. He has been with us since NOAA, and he kindly has hosted our fall picnic every year for a number of years on his beautiful farm up in Melanie Road. So hopefully we can do that again this year.
Hi, everybody.
I would like to introduce Elizabeth Stowman, who is our newsletter person.
Yeah.
Manager.
Right.
She is.
So Elizabeth, yes. Would you like to say something? No? Okay, well, that's our.
Andy, Tony is here.
Is she?
So, yeah, Tony, would you like to say something?
I'm just pleased to witness this event and looking forward to hearing everyone's work. And thanks, Barbara and Andy, for all your hard work.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. So, Barb, I think I'll get started with this. You're already recording it, but it's, as I said, Jen Minotti had to back out at the last minute. So our first reader is going to be Lynne Valente, and Michael Kramer will be the next one. So Lynne started writing poetry as a teen, influenced by the beats and the music of the time. Poetry and music have remained lifelong interests. So Lynne, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Andy. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you, Andy, and thanks, Barbara. Thank you to all of Right Action for doing this project. I've really been enjoying reading the poems downtown. I've gone on several poetry strolls. Great. Thank you so much. I'm reading a poem called A Visit. The people who are living in the house by the highway where I used to live have torn out the Japanese maple that grew to my waist. All summer, it stayed the color of dark apples. They dug up the whole yard for a pool and built a fence around it. Love, if we could go and lie now where we did then, secretly, beneath the dark window, awash in the sound of traffic, we would drown in real water. They've covered up the brick with a white stucco mask. My eyes linger on the hard swirls as we drive by. I feel sick, as if I'm trying to read in the car, my own diary. But look, they have left the crabapple tree by the kitchen door. It blooms on my birthday, and we get to drive away together. Thank you.
Thank you, and I like that poem a lot. Next, we have Michael Kramer, and the next reader will be Hunter Fales. So Michael lives in Guilford. His poems have appeared in Frog Pond, Modern Haiku, Bottle Rockets, Tiny Words, the anthology and the anthologies, Window Seats, the Red Moon Anthology, String Theory, and Elsewhere. Michael.
Again, thank you, Barbara and Andy and everyone else for doing this. This is titled A Form of Light. I also mentioned that it was hosted downtown by Turn It Up Music, so I wanted to be sure to say thanks to them. This has an epigraph by Jericho Brown. I begin with love, hoping to end there. A form of light. Excuse me. We stand in the light that comes with the rise of the day, under a dawn whose own end begins an evening. Each dawning, each evening, each beginning, each ending, each passage of light held in the form of the day. We have seen their passing that holds together these days, that forms the swiftly gathering light of a year. We know the full gathered time of all of those swift years that forms the binding of light into each joined life. We have seen bound with that life a path that passes through a shadowed valley that we each shall walk alone. It is the casting of that shadow that will tell us of the light that must shine beyond that valley's rim. And having walked then to the high rim of that valley, we stand in the light that comes with the rise of day. This was for Margaret Dale and Tony Barron. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. So next is Hunter Fales, and then Ed Burke will follow him. Hunter?
Hello. On my bio, I said we're recent immigrants from Oregon. Often get a question of what motivated us to move here. And I would have to say our ancestors. So that's it. And also thank you for putting this together. I appreciate all the effort it took. My poem's called A Train's Whistle. Patience is acceptance, a delayed departure, a holding pattern. Nearby, a classical sound, a train's whistle pulls me in. I have done everything in my power, prepared, presented, signed on the dotted line, stamped the date. Activation is not immediate. Crossbar lures in front of me, inhibiting passage, raising an immediate internal response. Resistance won't work. Assembling scenarios is helpful until they divert, diverge, dissolve. Projection into the ether is delicate, not fragile. Skillful surgery of hard steel. Rhythmic clatter passes by, a soothing sequence of sound. Rhythmic clatter passes by, a soothing sequence of sound. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. I love thinking about that. I love the passage of trains and the train whistles. Next is Elizabeth Stewman, and after her will be Elaine Reardon. Right Action's newsletter editor, Elizabeth Stewman, works with writers' manuscripts, is calendar editor at the Commons, and was the International Women's Writing Guild's newsletter editor and membership secretary for 35 years. So, Elizabeth.
Andy, you had originally said that Ed Burke would be next. So I don't know. Is Elizabeth here?
Here I am, but if Ed Burke is next, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. So my grandson Gio was born in November. This poem was written to him, a form of blessing. And by the way, last weekend, Gio and I and his parents, Eamon and Shanice, went to Gallery in the Woods to thank Dante and to introduce Gio to Dante as the Gio in the poem. And a very nice event. As Gio's birth approaches, we are praying, each of us, for you soon to be, to health, to joy, to uplift and strength, to boundless love and community, weaving a world that will hold you in its heart, in its caring arms, so that you may shine into our lives, into echoes past, and days to come.
Lovely. Thank you, Ed. Sorry to have skipped over you. I didn't mean to. I'll try to not do that again. Elizabeth Stewman is next, and after her, Elaine Reardon will read. So Elizabeth is the newsletter editor, and I read to you all about all of the things she's been doing to help us and the International Women's Writing Guild's newsletter. So unmute. Unmute.
Elizabeth, you have to unmute yourself.
Did. Okay. Well,
Yep.
I
You remuted yourself.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, you can hear me now, right? Good, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. You are asking me to remember. Yeah, that's right. I remember telling you yesterday what I was forgetting, but I have forgotten today what I was forgetting. Funny, huh? Well, yes and no. Recently, there's a mover pickup ride appointment for seniors I made for 12:30. Called back to change it to 15 minutes earlier, but 11:45 didn't sound right. After some mental machinations, I hit upon 12:15. And there's a cell phone, so many places I hang out with it, not always against my body. Which room, coat or robe pocket? Is it being charged? Did I leave it in the car? Did it fall out? Is the volume on so I can call from my landline and find it? Did I take my evening pills? And what about the red rice yeast pills I've taken instead of statins that have not succeeded in lowering my total cholesterol? HDL, the good cholesterol, is high, but it's considered too high. LDL, the bad cholesterol, is high too and has not dropped. Would my cholesterol numbers be higher if I didn't take the pills? And there's my unwillingness to put important information in easy to find and remember places. Instead, put a little note here, a little note there with my notes in the corner of pages, which have other scribbles and can be read for what it's worth by turning the paper around and around, right side up or sideways and every other which way. So good luck to anyone who is unfortunate enough to have to find my important papers, the ones we're told we need to have at the ready towards the end of our lifetimes. That's it for now. I'm just getting started. And I have an additional thing to add to this poem. Thank you for listening to me read this poem, but having shared it without telling you some additional background would not be satisfactory. So in March 2022, I woke up one morning, went downstairs to have breakfast, and the poem I just shared with you was on the kitchen table. It was unsigned. I thought it was pretty good and therefore chose to share it with you today. Thank you.
Glad you did. We've been there, I suspect, several of us.
Thank you.
So our next reader is Elaine Reardon, and then Jen Reichman is going to be the next reader, Jenny Reichman. Elaine is a poet and herbalist with 2 chapbooks. The Heart is a Nursery for Hope, and Look Behind You, about her family's journey from immigration to assimilation. So Elaine.
Hi, thank you. And thank you all the window and all the folks involved in this. It's a wonderful thing to have happen. This poem is Minister from Kitterbrook. When the new minister smiled, it was like daybreak, like the sun warming all parts of you. Lavinia Doolittle grew weak-kneed when he smiled from the pulpit. When Minister Hicks preached, his eyes sparked something new. Women forgot about Sunday service or fixing dinner after. Instead, they daydreamed about walking along Kitterbrook with him, listening to songbirds while Kitterbrook thundered by, drowning any need for talk or prayer. They were mostly Puritans in this community, living on the edge of wildness in this time of Revolutionary War. Women imagined reaching for his hand, touching him, and not stopping. Their blood ran faster than Kitterbrook. Thank you. Now, Minister Hicks was a real person in Warwick, Mass, and he preached of spiritual marriages. Several families in Warwick changed partners in the late 1770s because somebody else looked pretty good to them after listening to the preacher. Lavinia Doolittle, who was a teenager then, ran away with him, and he was put in the stocks. He was very charismatic by all accounts. So thanks.
Sounds like the basis for a good novel.
Yeah,
And a very nice poem too.
thank you.
Next is Jenny Reichman, and after her, Tom Regal will read. Jenny is a Marlboro, Vermont singer-songwriter and poet, published in literary journals and anthologies, including A 21st Century Plague, Poetry from a Pandemic. So Jenny.
All right, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay. I can't see myself. This is kind of strange. This poem is called Joel, and it's about a cousin of mine. I come from a very small family. I only had 4 cousins. They were all quite a lot older than me when I was a child, and he was the only one that ever paid any attention to me. And he died when I was 8, which was very hard for me. So this is called Joel. I still think of you when I look at the abalone summer sky, you skimming the spruce and Douglas fir in your Cessna, me 8 years old bouncing in my keds and waving wildly, you tipping your sun-glinted wing in greeting, a gentleman doffing his cap. 53 years ago, you would be 75 today. I told my mother, when I grow up, I'm going to marry Joel, as if you would stay 22 until I could meet you there. As it turned out, you did. You never got past the summer of 1968. My mother running up from the garden to answer the phone, my aunt telling her your plane had crashed, you had died, only you, no passengers. The color of the sky, the clouds, stir my belly with expectation of the engine's growl. It was a morning like this, hot and blameless. In my child's mind, I thought you had died in Vietnam, all over the news at supper time. I sang, "Where have all the flowers gone?" to mourn you. Even so, for years, I didn't really believe it, watched and waited for your blue Volkswagen to rattle up the driveway. We would have stayed friends, would have called and written and visited, cousins in a silent partitioned family. You would have listened to my songs. I would have babysat your children. I do not believe in an afterlife, however much I would like to see you again. But today there was the unexpected jolt of the unchanged sky where you had just been flying and the ground where I still stand looking up.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Wonderful poem. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Next is Tom Regal, and after him is Desiree Finley. So Tom, under the pseudonym of Lee Bramble, that's his pen name. Lee Bramble is the pen name of an amateur poet who, before his retirement, had been a professor of English literature and an academic administrator.
Thank you,
Tom
Andy.
Regal.
And thank everyone who arranged this gathering.
Tom Regal is my alter ego. I'm reading a simple poem entitled Listen. Listen, the psalm of life is in the land. Almost beneath my feet, the sound is harsh, uncouth, an intermittent clash of two frail wings, a dissonance with refuge in the shade. Listen, detect the croaking in the grass, ephemeral, unstationary bass. All things are cold, as a full moon tonight is cold, and yet a solitary voice speaks here, a tenor further on, one more, until the distance lacking shape is song, until a single voice nearby is lost. There is no single body in the night. Look down. The whiteness of the moon still lingers there. Each blade is stark and cold, but from amidst the shadows of the grass, the intermittent croak begins again. The psalm of life is in the land. Listen. Thank you.
What a pleasure to listen. Desiree Finley is next, and then followed by Thomas Nuffer. Desiree.
Thanks. This was, first of all, I just say.
I'm supposed to read the introduction and I didn't do that. I apologize. You are a poet, a fiction writer, and artist from Claremont, Massachusetts, with work in Silkworm, Willowa Journal, and SDWG's Pandemic Poetry. Thank you.
Thanks. I go by the name Finn, which is a nickname of my last name, but that's probably how it's written there. First of all, I just want to say what a treasure it is to be with you all, and what a wonderful program this is, and how I consider myself so very fortunate to have kind of stumbled upon you. I'm from Charlemont, Massachusetts, which is not too far away. And I did go and visit the poems, which was absolutely the most fun thing, and all the other ones too. This is a poem that was written while looking out the kitchen window at the mountain that I consider to be in my backyard. Blue is the color of forgiveness. In mornings when the moon still hangs in the sky and the fox runs past like a shadow, the broom of him sweeping dark on snow, as if he were made of chocolate, the kind you have with wine after pasta rich with cheese and dough. Birds cry because it's dawn, and you, in plumed disguise, softening the hard. In their way, they're family, faithful and wise, the birds. Let's draw them, nape to crown to wing. Art is the compass of all things. There is only so much you can learn from books, though they are an eternal lawn, seasonally green or tan, growing, changing, and certainly with a hedge nearby. So when hungry indigo comes to forgive, invite it in. Put it besides the brambles in the thistle vestibule. Call it blue. I still desire to desire, but mostly now I forgive. Thank you.
Lovely poem, Finn. I enjoy that. So that's wonderful. Thomas Nuffer's next, and then Catherine O'Callaghan. So Thomas Winfield Marie Nuffer, he, him, she, here, received his BA in biology from Marlborough College and lives in Marlborough, Vermont, where she mostly writes about trees and fish.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody, for putting this on and the opportunity to share. And it's been really wonderful to see everybody's poems downtown over the last month. So this piece, Long Nose Gar, is hung in the window of Sam's Outdoor Outfitters. The summer is not too long. Before you know it, the asparagus grows like dill. Every year, something goes unseen. Make busy with the footbridge, spread the mulch, leave the garden too long, leave the oven on, make love, then lie in bed and try and tally up the geese you watched slipping over the mountain. At least you know the long-nosed gar has left fish ghosts all along the Appalachians. 100 million years of Johnny Appleseeds planting toxic tiny eggs. At least you know the gars breathe air, their hungry mouths sharp as beech buds breaking the springs. At least you know how very long the long-nosed gar knows the world to be. At least you know and don't. At least you don't. Thank you.
I feel as if I know a lot more about the long-nosed gar than I ever did before. Thank you. It's a wonderful poem. Catherine O'Callaghan is in the, Matt Adams is going to be the next, Maddie Adams is going to be the next reader. Catherine is, at 60, is an emerging poet. During her career in higher education, she has served as both a faculty member and administrator. She resides in West Dummerston, Vermont. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I should make a shout out to Marlborough College because that's where I worked and that's where Thomas graduated from. Pandemic, November 14th, 2020. Now is the time to honor the invisible world. Parallel to our lives, she pulsates. Have we forgotten after we have heard so many stories? Amnesia of wise ones returning from the netherworlds, perpetually longing to merge with the hidden world. Somehow our air is dense now with the unseen. Atmospheric microbes, palpable particles, vapid viruses, alive, half alive, but not lit for sight. Shadowless, invisible universe teeming with shapes and symmetries. Strange how we have yearned for this invisible world, for her secret messages and sweeping gestures. But now we are blind and afraid. Is it that she appears in her own guise? Thank you.
Thank you. What a nice poem. Maddie Adams is next, and then Jenny Holden will be reading. Maddie is a ninth generation New Englander, self-identifies as mushroom forager, trout wrangler, chainsaw dancer, word farrier, and he lives among trees and critters in Guilford. So, Maddie.
Thank you very much. I need you to listen. He could channel moose. By that, I mean, whenever I saw moose, I was with him. Couldn't or didn't happen otherwise. There were times when he who spoke so little would just come to me, not the rest of them, and say, son. He called me that. Son, let's go walk. It was these times I never fussed, never gave another priority. Something in how his half whisper felt like a secret, a precious gift. He never said, "I need you to listen." I was frozen in a moment that I knew was a moment without past or future, no projecting an outcome, never asked, "Will we see a moose today?" Just went with it on a hike to some ice cave in a state park. We stole away from all the Boy Scouts he was chaperoning. There in the woods, a moose. And in a moss camouflaged crevice, ice in July. At a cabin beneath Katahdin, "Son, let's go for a canoe." The mist rose beneath the knife edge, and a moose foraged in the lilies of Dacey Pond. Long gone him. I walked in the woods, thinking of his red and black flannel coat, smelling of him. I listened to the wind and the twigs. And there, just there, was a moose.
Wow. I loved reading it, but boy, do you bring it to life. It is wonderful. Thank you, Maddie. That's a fine poem. Next is Jenny Holan, and then Peggy Alcott will be next. Jenny is of Westminster West, likes old books, old music, and poets that nobody reads anymore, but from the bygone days of big vocabularies. Jenny.
Thank you. By way of explaining this poem, I'm calling it "No Kitty, You Don't Want Out." My cats are here with me. Wherever I am in the house, if I'm upstairs, that's where the heat's on. So that's why they're here. And this one goes. You see bright sun out there, but it's in here with us that it stowed the soft fur of warmth. Out there, the sharp claw of cold is everywhere. The downy birds that look so lightsome endure invisible, icy force. From in here, we watch them fuel up to fight for life out there. That's it.
Known that cat. That's wonderful. Thank you, Jenny. Peggy Alcott is next, and she will be followed by Don Ogden. So Peggy worked as a teacher and as a physical therapist. She found her way back to writing after retiring. She now lives in Brattleboro. Peggy.
Thank you. No, I'm not in a hurry to get there. I guess I'll push the season a few months ahead and read the one called August. How many steps to fill in a loss? One day you lose count and stand still in the August dark under an undomed sky, in awe of the immensity of space. The Perseid showers arrive, burning leftovers from an icy comet, reaching us from another time, now streaking the night with light.
Thank you. Now we have Don Ogden, and after that, Kathleen Figley. And Don Ogden's poetry appeared in a variety of publications on national and local radio. His book, Bad Atmosphere, a collection of poetry and prose on the climate crisis, is from Levelers Press in Amherst. So Don.
Thank you. This is a true story. It's a tragedy and some divine intervention and second chances, some redemption, some magic and destiny. Cold River. Cold River saved the life it almost took away, as her and I at some remove thought to move along separately until a daughter's call broke upon the day, her brother's missing presence by river's side, away and gone into emptiness, only the sound of water, passing a camp of frightened voices calling out around, searching horribly, unknown directions to unknown directed me to a very silent spot where a cold body lay. More voices emerged. This must not be, until in timeless sorrows passing, he returns to we together eternally. Thank you.
Wonderful. Kathleen Figley is the next reader, and Tim Mayo will follow. Kathleen is a pushcart nominated poet whose chapbook, How You Came to Me, was published by Finishing Line Press. Her work has appeared in several journals. So Kathleen.
I want to thank everyone that's involved with this project for including people that live across the river in Keene, New Hampshire. I know you had a 50-mile radius, and I thought, yes, but your generosity has always been greatly appreciated by me. You've been very wonderful to me in my career, and I want to thank you. This poem came about because I walk every day, and many of my inspirations come from nature. So the title is All Fall to Earth. Birds rise and fall, weave in and out of each other, not quite a murmuration, their bodies delicate and translucent. I wish I could do the same. If I could follow them, would I vanish as they do into the white sky, fading into nothingness and background noise? I rise and fall over a strange landscape. This encounter is spontaneous, unplanned as most encounters between bird and human are. The tree's canopy brushes my face gently. Branches reach up to grab me. I stay afloat, keeping level with birds. As long as I don't think about it, it works. If I start identifying birds or speculate on migration patterns, I will fall to earth. Birds alight on a birch, then disperse. I take myself home, following a few stragglers. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoy that poem. I'm awfully glad that you crossed the river with it.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Tim Mayo. We're very glad to have him with us. And then Julie Dolan will be next. Tim Mayo's most recent collection, Notes from the Mental Hospital, Timekeeper, from Kelsey Books, won honorable mention in the 2020 Eric Hoffer Book Awards. So, Tim.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who's organized the poems around town and have and organized this reading as well. Is this me or somebody else? What? Okay. So here we go. Amelia's cat. On those final days when my lover lay unhooked in her hospital bed, hovering between the heavenly bodies of life and death, I would travel the earth to her place, where the cat, curled in a window, slept and waited for sustenance with yawning ambivalence and a hunter's hunger. Sated, she would then stretch out to the ends of her claws, as if grasping at the small feathers of air, trying to enter the closed window. And I'd begin to hum a lullaby to keep her company, some tune I'd only just remembered from that speechless part of life called infancy. Day in and day out, I would do this, then open the window to fill the room with earthly noises while the cat toyed with the fluttering air like a wounded bird. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Wonderful. Let's see, where are we? Julie Dolan is next, and then Mike Fleming will be next. Julie says, I've been writing poetry since I was 6. Most recently, I've been writing at the poetry studio with Anne Gingerelli and friends. So please, Julie, next.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. It's a wonderful project. I wrote this poem in July 2020, which is pertinent. Thoughts about breath. I like to think it begins with a breath, a promise of life. Lungs stretch and fill as we inhale all that has been gifted to us, that delicate, miraculous balance of plant and creature. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. But it begins with an exhale, a sometimes violent expulsion of anguish and shock as we exit the womb and join the others, with no guarantee that life will be resplendent, breathtaking, inspirational. Will we breathe with ease or be weighted down by allergy, apnea, anxiety, oppression? Will a virus or mycotoxin or a knee to our throat take away that promise of existence? The air is drier today. A gentle breeze carries the scent of nectar. The garden petals sway. There is a lightness to being in the world, this garden of promises. Not the heaviness of these past weeks, when the air was so thick, it pressed on my lungs, and I awoke each day feeling the weight of so many suffering. We can't breathe, they cry out in panic, in pain. Is it coincidence that we now are plagued by both disease and dysfunction, making it so difficult to breathe? Or perhaps it is broken promises that we now all experience the anguish of oppression. After each exhale is a promise of life. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Nice poem, breathtaking. Mike Fleming is next, and after Mike, Jen Rizzi. So Mike, I'm reading your biography here. Let's see, where are we? Michael Fleming lives and works in Brattleboro. He loves to share his poems. Mike edited Print Town, the recently published history of Brattleboro. And he did a fine job too. Mike. Unmute.
I think he's not here, Andy.
Okay, that's too bad. Jen Razee lives in Wilmington, Vermont, and she's the next one, and then Sharon Harmon will be after that.
Do you want to read her intro?
Oh, yeah, sorry. That is basically it. She says her last name is pronounced Razee, and Jennifer Razee lives in Wilmington, Vermont. If she would like to add more to that, I'd be delighted to find out. Jen? She not here?
Thanks. My thanks to the organizers and sponsors of this event, and participants, I am honored to be among y'all, and I have much enjoyed this evening's readings. My short poem, in part, was informed by a challenge to use a collective noun. I ended up with banditry of chickadees. I'm still trying to figure out how to use a menorah of flickers in a poem, one of my favorite collective nouns. This reading is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend Judith Schaefer and our mutual vow that our respective obituaries would not contain the phrase "battle with cancer." And I have an epigraph from Melissa Hogenboom, who's a science writer for the BBC. And that epigraph: cancer is an unfortunate byproduct of the way evolution works. M. Hogenboom. Certain marvels. How that banditry of chickadees sprang from some dinosaur whose DNA twisted for eons to clench into the small, quick, tricolored feather fists that hit and swing this winter's hanging feeder. How I share 9/10 of my genes with my cat perched on the windowsill, wrapped with the prey that hops and flutters one leap beyond her reach. How a faction of my cells chanced to mutate in evolution's quiet avalanche. Thank you.
It is just wonderful. I've been wandering around town reading. I first read them before I printed them, but seeing things in windows and enjoying them. So this is just wonderful hearing them in your voices. You bring them to life. Sharon Harmon is next, and after Sharon it will be Nancy Olson. Sharon A. Harmon has been recently published in Compass Roads, where love blooms, writing the Land Northeast and the Patterson Literacy Review. She lives in Royalston, Massachusetts. So Sharon. Unmute, please.
Yep. I did, okay. This is great to see everybody. I'm so excited. When I heard I had a poem in my favorite place, Twice Upon a Time, I was like over the moon about it. So I took my granddaughter up there, who also writes poetry, and she's 14 years old. And I didn't even tell her. I surprised her with my poem in the window. So thank you for doing this. It's a great opportunity. All the hard work all of you have done. This is called Like a Second Skin. They warm you, keep you company in the barn, walking in the woods, at town meetings. They cuddle with you while you're reading, Some have endearing holes, snags, stains, frayed cuffs and necks. Or they might have buttons missing, threads hanging in worn spots, soft as the patina of an old wooden spoon. They hold memories of your dog at the vet, that night in front of the fire. They have shared thousands of cups of steaming tea, listened to rain on the roof, and watched those first magical snowfalls. They are your choice when you come home tired and stressed, wrapping their nubby arms around you, becoming your security blanket. Favorite sweaters don't lie in mothballs. They hold too much history of your daily life. They can never be put down like an old horse, just like the ends of every life. Bit by bit, they slowly unravel. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice poem. Nice thinking about that sweater. So Nancy Olson is going to read, and then J.C. Wayne. Nancy lives and writes in Putney, Vermont. She has studied with Anne Gingerelli at the Poetry Studio. So Nancy.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Blast Bidet, which is where my poem is, on the corner of Main Street and Elliott, in case you want to check it out, if you haven't already. It's called Spring Song. Sun, I greet you, even if clouds coat the sky and rain's silver curtain hangs between us, I know you are there. Spring, I greet you. Peepers' voices, shrill cacophony thrill my ears. The air, redolent of your presence, green tips on tree branches, mud, manure, chill of snow pockets. Each inhale draws your essence across my tongue. I touch the petals of a snowdrop and lift the blossom to peer into its delicate green heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice poem. Next is J.C. Wayne, and then I guess I'm next. J.C. Wayne is poet, artist, cartographer of the unseen and founder of the Poetry Project, whose mission is building toying words through toying words. So please, JC.
Thank you. The mission is building loving worlds through loving words and art. So, although I like toying, I'm a youthful spirit, so that works too. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I'm sorry to have screwed that up. I've got new glasses coming and I'm finding this very difficult to read. So.
Good job then. Well, thank you so much. It's really hard to believe that it's been a year already since we gathered last year. And I'm so happy to be back. So thank you everyone who's involved. This poem, Goodness Hurts So Much, was written in mid-January, and it was inspired by three experiences. I've been traveling for about 6 months, and I've been in Chicago for much of the year. And on January 3rd, very precipitously, the city of Chicago basically created a vaccine mandate for everybody after things had been very loose. And behavior got very ugly in Chicago with a kind of a lot of aggression on both sides around the vaccine. Coupled with that was that I went to see the fourth Matrix film, Resurrections, in Chicago, and there's a reference to Resurrections in this poem. And the same week, I watched Station 11 on HBO Max, and you'll see a reference or hear a reference to Traveling Symphony. And the shared experience in watching both of those shows was that their tenderness was so shocking to the system amidst all of the meanness that was happening in Chicago that my heart literally felt squeezed and hurt when I when I watched these shows. So this is Goodness Hurts So Much. How has it become that goodness hurts so much? The hordes have become so mean, even the ones who are supposed to be good, that what is meant to be our provenance has become heartbreaking. Poignancy has become the rarest thing, precious as the glorious punch to the heart seeking resuscitation, reawakening with a gasp amidst the wash of darkness, in which resurrections becomes biblical, and a traveling symphony, the umbilical, to the artful beauty of our rarefying humanity and the tender saving grace of our capacity to be wistful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed that. And again, enjoy hearing it. I guess I'm next. I'm on the board of Right Action, and I've served on the boards of the Brattleboro Museum, where the Print Town vision was born, and the Vermont Public Radio for 12 years. I started a publishing business called ProLingua Associates for teaching English as a second language, and ran it here for 42 years. And I have now retired. The first time I showed this to somebody, they asked me if it was autobiographical. And I was reminded of, I heard Robert Frost answer a question about one of his poems at one point as to whether it was a death poem. And he turned to the person next to me and he said, "Young man, all poems are death poems." And I think in a sense, all poetry is autobiographical. It's what we want to say. It reflects our hearts and our minds at this specific time. This is called The Barn Door. Again, the barn door bangs in the wind, and no one stirs or cares. An icy gust winds through a broken window, chases a pile of family photos and love letters across the empty loft and down the stairs. Inside the kitchen, he sits and rocks by his old stove. The wood fire warms him. His eyes are closed, just too tired to read or write, reaching out to friends who might write back or even stop by for a drink or chat. Will someone think to wind the clock? He never thought their farm would end like this, closed up, useless, with no more work to do. And yet he smiles and shakes his head. Someone will take the farm and start again as they did, together so long ago. With a sigh, he turns on the radio. Familiar voices like friends, sharing the news. But he turns it off. Why is there no peace? He hears Aunt Lotta growl. Oh, how she could growl. It's always war and famine, drought and fire. Since I was a girl, it's been the same. Smiling, stupid, dishonest men. Their great war to end all war. That damned flu, the depression, the war again and again. Yep, he thinks, she was right and nothing's changed. And everything has. he leaves the radio off. Our farm is out of business. The forest is growing back in the fields. At least it was until the neighbors started building their housing development next door. We did what we could, and the years went by. Too many years. Our time is up. It's getting dark now. Too early, it seems. The maple by the back door creaks in the wind. And next is Barbara. Thank you. Barbara Morrison of Brattleboro is the author of a memoir, Innocent Confessions of a Welfare Mother, and 2 poetry collections, Terrarium and Here at Least. Barbara.
Thanks, Andy. So I write under the name B. Morrison, just because Barbara Morrison is so long to write out. I moved to Brattleboro a few years ago from 400 miles away, where I had lived almost my entire life. So even though a couple branches of my mother's family were New Englanders, and I had spent, a good bit of time in New England, it was still a wrench to leave a lifetime's worth of friends and move here. To leave the place where, every street corner had 100 memories, and I knew all the walking trails. I knew where to find the best bagels and so on. But I'm here. But that wrench made it especially fraught when I set off on a new trail that I was unfamiliar with here. So this poem is called Comfort If You're Lost. Take what you're given. That's what I think. Make it be enough. Lost in the hollows, surrounded by mountains' dark bulk, no map or compass. Follow the cold brook, tumbling over stones, water clear as glass over the bones of the earth. Find your way home. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who read tonight.
Indeed, this is just amazing. Everybody's been thanking us, and I want to thank you all for making it happen. It's just such a variety of so many wonderful poems, and those that were not read tonight. It's just been a splendid adventure to be on. And thank you all for joining us. Barb, how much time do we have left?
So I'm going to stop recording, and you all can hang around and chat if you want. Does that sound okay, Andy?
Well, do we have time for another poem or two?
Oh,
or?
yes. Well, it's 13 minutes after 8. What do you think? We could go till 8:30, do you think?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
I think we could do
let's have
that.
a few more poems.
So as Barb suggested, if you'd like to read another poem that was part of this collection in the windows, and you come prepared, you can go down to the reactions button at the very bottom, and you can click on that and you'll see a little hand, and you can raise your hand, and at the bottom it says raise hand, and you can raise your hand, and I see 3 anyway right now, and 4. So let's see how far we can get. And I'll just take them as they came across at the top, starting left to right. So Nigel.
Hi, again, thanks again to everybody. This is a set of 5 haiku that were published over the last year. Likewise, I want to thank Brattleboro Bikes, so they hosted this. And I found that when reading extremely short pieces like haiku, that they can go by so quickly that it can be useful to try to read them twice. I'm going to try to do that. I'll try to read quickly. And this has an overall title of Telling Time, 5 haiku for the year. One leaf at a time. Our daughter's first word. One leaf at a time. Our daughter's first word. Old couch. The cat steps down into stillness. Old couch. The cat steps down into stillness. Wave rolling shells clatter now as wind chimes. Wave rolling shells clatter now as wind chimes. Telling time. Her hands move across my face. Telling time. Her hands move across my face. A hillside covered with full moons after the clear cut. A hillside covered with full moons after the clear cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. And then that's Hunter Fails, is it? Passing is Kathy Eggerly?
That's my wife's computer.
That's your
I have a
computer, I
desktop.
see. That's what I thought. So
It's
you're
It's
next.
her computer. So anyway, just a short aside. After driving across the country to New Hampshire and spending the month in June on Lake Wentworth, we drove back to Oregon, deciding to downsize and move back. We ended up renting a place in Manchester Center, and now we're located off of Wyndham Hill Road in Wyndham, Vermont. Very glad to be here. Very, very glad. This poem is called Prisons of Our Own. In this world, we are centered in our solar plexus, stuck in the mud that grab at each step through sticks and clumps. We're so tired of slogging. Resistance pushes back at reaching green fields, becoming that better version. Ladders are useful when you need them. Slides are a relief when you get the chance. Hierarchies pit us against ourselves, yet nature is full of these defined structures, some highly aggressive, designed to maintain order. Are we humans, transcendent beings who constantly tear apart, extract, soil the soil we live on, continually looking outside, somewhere else, to fix us, to free us, while we remain stuck, prisoners in our own prison? Thank you. Thank you for this evening.
Thank you. And JC.
Thank you again. One of my annual rituals before my birthday is to try to go someplace that is special and feels sacred to contemplate on and assimilate the lessons of the year before my birthday. So this year, this was written in February of this year. It had the symmetry of being a 5/5 and moving into 56. And so this was written at the end of the trail that I walked at Missisquoi National Wildlife Refuge up north in Alberg. End of the trail. Serene in solitude is a hard-won way. A bench sits. End of the trail. A marsh, twisted tree, ice. Expanse of gray sky punctuated by eagles' nests, the only companions in singularity. Companions in fullness that has lanced aloneness out of reality. The wind dances the last breath of a year made of 2 5s. And in this solo moment, thronging with friends before the embarking of a new cycle, I am fully unbound into the atoms of this place, begun in the wilds of the Andean Cajas a world away, and two mosaics of blue pierce the vault of the day before, cracking in the light of the moment of meaningful mystery resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. And Julie Dolan.
Hi, I had recently learned about villanelles and learned that one of my favorite poems as a teenager had been Dylan Thomas's "Don't Go Gentle into That Good Night." So I decided I'd give it a try. So I took an old a poem that I had previously written and tried to write a villanelle. So it's called A Mother's Lament. Where are the boundaries of a mother's heart that will keep them safe whilst letting them roam, weaving together, untwining apart? Tread lightly through prickers, avoid the barbs. The labyrinth of roses will lead them home. Where are the boundaries of a mother's heart? You show them the ocean, they choose the dark, where the mermaid drifts on a bed of foam, weaving together, untwining apart. You hold tight to your love as you watch them start to shift their shape from the person you've known. Where are the boundaries of a mother's heart? Kinship of others, the harbor they sought, brief returns to safe shores before they go, weaving together, untwining apart. No regrets, no demands is mother's art, transfixed in awe at who they have become, weaving together, untwining apart. Where are the boundaries of a mother's heart?
Nice villanelle. They're hard to have sing like that. That's wonderful. Thank you. And Elaine.
Thank you. Delicious. COVID brought me the year of my vegetable garden. Such time to lavish in the garden each morning. Okra pods push out from blossoms, blood-colored veins. Huge squash flowers unfurl, catch dew and every bumblebee. Orange cabotia, perfect Cinderella coaches, and zucchini flowers, new each morning. This morning, the endive was perfect. I imagine soup with chunks of ripe tomato, summer squash, okra, endive, seasoned with garlic, shallots, cilantro, all simmering, all from the garden. There's something about soup that sets things to right. Not just the choosing what the bees have just flown from, also the simple act of carrying the vegetable basket into the kitchen. The aroma of chicken broth on the stove always brings me to balance. Chopping, slicing, waiting, noticing, nourishing, being. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the last of the people who volunteered to read another poem. And so I just like to as a last thought, playing off of that poem. I mean, this is a gathering a harvesting of lots of interesting thoughts, creative visions that's been going on in this difficult time. And a lot of good comes from it, I think. It's very good to hear our voices. And I appreciate it. And thank you so much for everybody who's joined us. Arlene, would you like a last word?
Yeah, I second what you said. And I think I speak for all of us to say it felt like a privilege to receive and read these poems. And hearing you all read them just added another layer of richness.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And I hope that you'll stay with us, stay with our efforts in right action, and make a contribution. Join us. If you're not getting our bi-weekly letter that we send out, please sign up for it so that you know what other things are going on that we can pass on to you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. We'll see you next year, I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.